Hi, my name is Mitchell Bailey, and I am the lead trombonist in the University of Montana Jazz Ensemble. I've been doing this for quite a while, and I really, really love this music. So I hope you get a lot out of these materials that you've gotten today. Though there's a lot of materials out there for classical trombone players, there aren't that many things that will help you along your way to become a jazz trombonist. A lot of the details are kind of shrouded in this you just have to hear it, you have to figure it out mentality. And it doesn't really need to be that way. Granted, there are things you need to learn that are specific to certain genres, styles, certain recordings, just like anything else. In the classical world, you want to be listening to what you're doing as much as you would in the jazz world. But there are some basic things that if you just know as a default, as a baseline for what you're doing, they will help you so much in sounding authentic in playing this music the way it was meant to be played and the way it's most fun to play. Anyway, without further ado, here is the Jazz Ensemble trombone section. Thank you. We are the University of Montana Jazz Ensemble trombone section. I am Mitchell Bailey. I'm a second-year grad student. I play lead trombone typically, though we pass it around a little bit. On second trombone, we have Lane Olberg. Third trombone, Sean Stiniford. And on bass trombone, we have Dylan Batista. Today we're going to talk you through how we rehearse the chart Splanky by Neil Hefti, arranged by Sammy Nestico. This is a really great chart. A lot of you will probably end up playing it if you should stick with the jazz stuff. So we're going to talk about how you go about playing in a big chord where everyone's playing their own parts, and how to play in a unison line where everyone is playing the same part and make them both sound great. But to do any of that, we have to play in time. So typically, when I am rehearsing the group, when Rob is rehearsing the group, we feel time on 2 and 4. We're all going to demonstrate us feeling 4/4 while emphasizing 2 and 4. So we're only really going 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you feel in your chest, it's really hard to not play and sing in time. So if we can all do this together. We do this all the time when we're playing in the Jazz Ensemble rehearsals. We just feel that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. So as you're doing this, you don't just want to feel the beats 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to subdivide quarter notes in between. Now, in regular band class, you might go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and in a lot of styles of jazz, you also do that. But in the most common one, which is swing, we feel a triplet between those notes. So we feel 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. What I like to do to get people to feel this is feel our 2 and 4, 2, 3, 4, and just sing this. Day, day, ga, day, day, ga, day, day, ga, day, day, ga, day. Can everyone try doing that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Day, day, ga, day, day, ga, day, day, ga, day. A little bit more. Day, day, ga, day, day, ga, yeah. So under that, you should be feeling 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Keep going. 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sweet. So that should be going on underneath all of what you're doing. That's how you get that swing feel. When you're singing your parts, you're not just going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And when you have eighth notes, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And it all is on that triplet grid that we just established. So what we're going to do is we're going to feel time on our bodies, and we're going to sing this excerpt, the shout chorus, which is when all the trumpets and trombones and saxophones come together and play the same thing right at the end of the chart as a big climax. We're going to sing our parts there with this triplet feel underlying what's going on. So here we go. Ready? Can we get our metronome? If you have a metronome app, that's an awesome thing to use whenever you're working on jazz music. It's like having your very own drummer. Here we go. I'll give you 2 measures out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Da 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 da. Dum ba da da dum ba da da dum ba da 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 ba da do da 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 ba da 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 do ya da do da ya ah ah ah. Yeah, sweet. All right. So if you can hear that, we're not singing the right pitches necessarily, but we have a nice rhythm, a nice groove going. And once we translate that feeling to our horns, it almost doesn't matter what notes we play. It's still going to feel good, and that's half the battle. So when we do add the notes back in, it's going to sound really cool, and we're going to demonstrate that now. We're going to show kind of what our final product is, and then we're going to go into the details of how we make it a little bit more. But I just want you to feel this time and feel this groove and everything going on here. So we're going to have our metronome back on. Lane is our metronome man for the day. And here we go.
What shape?
Just as we normally would in a rehearsal, like we're performing for Rob. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Sweet. Yeah, so you can hear that triplet going on underneath that. And if you want to test it the next time we play in time like that, on your own, try feeling 2 and 4 underneath us and going day, day, ga, day, the whole time. And it should line up pretty well. So now that we've got our group time together, our group subdivisions together, let's talk about articulation. Because after time, articulation is what really makes this music interesting. For the most part, if you have a note, a string of eighth notes going on, like if you heard us play, those are all legato or smooth and connected. So within that triplet, we want to make sure the notes are nice and connected as you're going. So as an example of what would happen if we didn't do that, we're going to play that one thing right at measure 53. And we're going to keep it really, really detached. It should be really obvious why this doesn't work, and then we'll play it right afterwards. So here's detached. This is what you don't want to sound like. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, did you hear that? Didn't really like groove. It was kind of like bup, 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 bup. It got like, I don't want to say anything about marches, but it kind of felt like a da 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 da, and that's not really what this is. So let's do it now with a more swinging, appropriate legato feel. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so that was a lot more happening. That was a lot better. But you'll notice, if you have a keen ear and you were paying attention to all that, that not everything we play in there is smooth. And if you look at your jazz chart, you probably have accents that look like this, which are called marcato or housetop accents, depending on who you're talking to. Accents that look like this, which are just your standard accent, which just means give a little bit of intensity to that note. And then you have accents that look like this, which are tenutos, but just mean play full and smooth line. So these we also exaggerate and do in a slightly different way than we normally would in a classical context. So here what we're doing is when we have this guy, the marcato housetop accent, that we use the syllable dot for. So when you're doing everything smooth, it really, really sticks out. We're going to sing from 53 up until 56, that same excerpt, and try and listen for when we sing the dot syllable. You should be able to feel it if we do it right. If not, you got to get better. All right, we'll sing it and try and make it really obvious. But feel time with us, feel time on your body as you're going, and try and hear where we're not singing smooth lines. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, Yeah. Oh, yeah, we probably could have gone on, but that's okay. We're going to play that excerpt again and feel time as we're going with us and try and hear where the accents are in that music. So hear what's smooth and what's accented. We're going to be really, really obvious about it. And then we'll go back and do it again without it, and you'll just see how much it adds. So let's just start from the beginning of the excerpt one more time, 49. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And there's not a great place to stop that one. It goes on because it's in the middle of the chart. Could you hear it? If you couldn't, we'll keep making accents happen as it goes. As you're aware of this when you're listening to jazz music and reading charts, I think you'll start to see these accents popping up. Usually it just means a harder front to the note. And if you're really legato and smooth on everything else, it should be really, really obvious when you're going do-va-do-va-do-va-do-da, just like that. You might wonder, how do you actually accomplish that note, that sound? And a lot of it is just singing it and repeating after your band director or singing along to a recording of what you're doing to kind of get the nuance of it. One of the biggest things you can do is start and end the note with your tongue. So that's why dot is a good example. You can feel your tongue come down and then back up. Dot. Yeah, this is a good visual example. So if you guys can sing it, here we go. Dot. Yeah, it gives a really, really solid ending to your notes. That's why it's a great syllable to use. And you, for the most part, want to end almost all of your notes with your tongue coming back up. This is another big no-no in classical music that we actually use all the time in jazz. And what it does is it gives a really strong ending to your notes. Let's try measure 57, and at the end of that phrase, we're not going to cut off at the end. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, Yeah, and you see, when you don't end together, no one knows when to come back in. Now we're going to do it right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, Yeah, you hear how it was D, dot, 3, 4, 1, da, da, da. Everyone knew exactly where it ended and where it started. It's really important for keeping time to take these things into account. Another thing you'll hear as we're going is that when we hit a note, this is very, very similar to classical music, actually. Slightly different, but the same concept. So when we have long notes, we're not really just holding them indefinitely. It's not just like a da, that lasts forever. You need to give energy to your notes. 90% of the time when that happens, you want to hit the note pretty hard for the front and then come down and build back up. In classical music, you'll see a forte piano for this sort of thing almost all the time, followed by a crescendo to the ending. In this type of music, it's almost just assumed that you're going to do that all the time. And that's how it gives life to everything and keeps the whole thing moving forward. Sometimes this will not be the case. But for the most part, you're not really going to go wrong with exaggerating that. So let's try singing it once like that, getting into 49. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. All right, we're gonna play that now. Here we go. 1. Pay attention to us growing those notes, and then we're gonna show you the opposite of it again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. yeah, did you hear that? If you have a good lead trumpet player, your job is really, really easy. So now we're going to give an example of us not really articulating or giving our long notes life. And just listen to how much less energy it has, how much more just vanilla it feels. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Listening to that, it's just a lot less interesting. And what you'll find when you're playing is a lot of times you think you're doing the first thing we did, but what you're actually doing is the second thing we did. The way to get over that is by over-exaggerating these things. So as a trombone player, I think we can all agree that one of the best things you can get is the hand from your director, which means you're giving too much. Like you're giving too much style, too much noise, too much attitude. It's way easier to be giving too much and then pull back with a student than having them give too little and pull more out of them. So it's always a good rule of thumb to try and over-exaggerate stuff and then be told, oh, that's really, really good, but like too much. Back off. Same thing happens in acting, if any of you ever done any sort of play. Your director will probably say you have to over-enunciate everything you're doing. This is the exact same concept, just on a trombone instead of your voice. Some of you may have noticed that we're not all playing the same part the whole time. I'm playing the top part, and it goes down from there. That's not always the case in big band music, and it's really important to know what to do in each of those scenarios. So generally, when you're playing, you're going to either have big chords like these where you're all playing the same rhythm together, or you're going to be playing the exact same line in a unison. Now, everything we've talked about in the big chords becomes even more important when you're playing unison. You have to have the same style, the same embellishments, the same articulations. It becomes really obvious if anything is out of line when you're all playing the exact same notes at the exact same time. So, Splanky has another great example of this. It's a great chart to work with if you ever get the opportunity. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you listen to music. So go check it out. It's only like 5 minutes long, so it's not going to ruin your day or anything. But in the first half, we have this unison line. So when we're in unison, we basically have to come down a little bit. You're not doing your own thing so much, so you don't have to over-enunciate quite as much as you do when you're doing the big block chords. You want to listen to each other primarily. That's when your ears have to really turn on. You need to focus on intonation, style, time, legato, everything we've talked about before. So we're going to do an example of how we play right at pickups to 23, and then we'll break down some of what we're doing with that as well. 1, 2, pretty good run of that. We were all working really, really hard to try and make sure we were all doing the same thing and have one sound go out there, not have 4 individual sounds. Now we're going to do an example of us not doing that at all. We're going to play as if we're playing alone. So volume doesn't really matter. Articulation, everyone can kind of do their own thing. And just hear how much less of a solid thing it is. It doesn't sound like one trombone player, it sounds like 4. So here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. as you were listening to that, we're playing the same notes, but the effect is completely lost on the second one. The great thing about jazz, in particular, in big band music, is that so much of it makes you go beyond just the notes. Learning the right notes is just kind of the first step. And sometimes it's even an afterthought to like articulation, style, groove, all of the things we've been talking about today. So you want to make sure you know your scales, work on those things in classical settings, so then when you come here, you don't have to think so much about them, and you can just work on these groovy things that'll translate to a lot of different styles when you're going out and playing with bands, all of those types of things. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to play from measure 23. There's a solo section in between, but we're going to play both of these excerpts as they're supposed to be played as one final send-off. And hopefully we can send some sort of PDF or something so you can kind of follow along with what we're playing, because it would be great if you could see some of this stuff for yourself. I'm going to go from 23, and then I'll just count into our shout chorus at 49. We're skipping over some solos because that's a whole nother masterclass to talk about how to solo on this music. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Sweet. Thank you. We are glad that you are participating in this festival, and we hope you get a lot out of these videos. Big band playing is an amazing thing to do, and we would love to see more trombonists out there doing it. So stick with it. The journey is not as far as it may seem. All right.